Success? Who knows? The teacher scolded the child one last time before the class let out. In many ways, the boy with the green eyes is everyone. A lot of kids make a mess of their homework. It's easy to get distracted. But that child was me. I lumbered along in my classes. My grades were weak. I floundered on exams. Teachers complained about my inability to learn, one telling my mother I would probably become a cook. So one morning in January 1986, a school psychologist slipped into my fourth grade classroom to observe me in class. While I've tried to recall the day, I don't have the slightest scrap of a memory. But for decades, I kept the psychologist's detailed report, a single-spaced, black and white typewriter-created document. It describes how I managed to cheat, neglect my work, and forego all focus during the 1-hour-long class. Frustrated, inattentive, and distracted are among the words of the school psychologist used to describe me. Kindergarten was probably my first academic challenge. I was the youngest in my class, and I ended up repeating the grade because I couldn't keep up. In elementary school, teachers sent me for special testing, and I filled in the bubbles of a long list of unpronounceable psychological exams that sound today like a bit of Psych 101. The Bender Visual Motor Gestalt Test, the Zeitlin Coping Inventory, the Projective Figure Drawing Exam. For a few years in middle school, I spent a few hours each week in special education, a holding pen for cranks and misfits, social oddities, and academic outliers. Different theories about the cause of my difficulties floated around, vague potential explanations. One account held that I was slow to learn because my immigrant parents spoke German at home. Others claimed that I had an auditory problem, that my brain wasn't wired correctly when it came to listening. Still others believed I lacked intelligence, that almost magical ability to think through issues and solve problems. There's a bit of accuracy to each of these theories. My parents have lived in this country for decades, yet they still sometimes slip into German while speaking English. I do indeed have a learning disorder that makes it difficult to follow auditory details, and I still have a hard time following verbal directions. And let's be clear, I'm no genius. There's another perspective on what happened, though, and when I look back now, it seems that I didn't know how to learn. I didn't have ways to think about my thinking. I didn't ask myself questions or set goals or even know what it meant to know something. The ability to learn appeared beyond me, and it left me lost, as the school psychologist wrote in her evaluation. With the help of some teachers, I eventually developed a few basic learning strategies. I would ask myself questions like, do I really know this? Did I understand the underlying logic of what I was learning? I also came to terms with the idea that people learned at different rates, that I might need to put in more effort than my peers. Over the years, I discovered better ways to focus, becoming a devotee of anything that promoted silence. And even today, I buy earplugs by the box. Eventually, my academic confidence began to tick upward, and so did my grades. Student government became an interest. So did sports, track, basketball, cross country. I did well on my college admissions exams, and then, with a bit of luck and a lot of work, a thick envelope from an Ivy League college arrived in the mail. My academic experiences are not the basis for this book. In fact, if you compare my experience to the experiences of those stuck in dead-end colleges or bad corporate training, I had it great. Supportive parents, well-funded schools, generally caring teachers. Plus, my auditory disability makes me less than representative. But in the end, my experience drove an interest, one that developed into a career, and today I believe that a lot of people are like an early version of me. They don't think much about the best way to gain new knowledge and skills. People will often reread material, for instance, even though it's a weak approach to learning, or they'll use highlighters, which have a very limited research base. People also won't reflect on their skills or track their progress, despite the live